Very recently, I was able to complete the entirety of the Clair Obscur Expedition 33. The game has left an infallible mark upon my mind. It has somehow burrowed its way into my dreams, into my nightmares, and into my wildest fantasies. I am deeply obsessed with this game, having beat it 8 times as of current, simply to get more about the story and discover every little nook and cranny that I've missed. I have 100% the game at this current moment, and I would 100% it again, and I am lost deeply inside of the world. So, what we're going to do here is start off very simply with the story of the game. I want to point this out before we begin. This is not scripted. I have sectioned the video into entire sections so you guys can know exactly what I'm talking about. Let's start with the story. It appears to be the biggest point of contingency. Even people who have played the game that I've talked to do not know the entire story of the game. So let's begin from the very beginning. Verso. Verso is the main titular protagonist of the game as we exist inside of his painting. There will be spoilers for the entire game, so I just want to point that out before we begin. Everybody in the game, outside of maybe 5 characters, which would be Aline, Renoir, Alicia, and Clair, and Verso essentially, but Verso is gone, so just basically 4, are technically in the real world. They are creator gods, one might say, painters as they are called in their original world. And through using the power of the painters, they can make amazing, sprawling worlds called paintings in the canvases they create. Verso's painting was made when he was a little boy, hence why at the very end of the game, you get to see a small child continuing the painting. Painters put a little essence of their soul inside each painting. That's very important, because the writers manipulated Alicia perhaps into getting them to reveal their location of their house, or maybe attacking when their family wasn't there. This caused the house to catch on fire. The house fire left Alicia to have no eye, a burned throat, and tore up skin. This is a big contingent point of the story because Verso died in that fire. So the family was racked with grief. The story main so is about the trauma of that grief, the generational understanding of how that trauma destroys everybody within the family, and how they are dealing with it in different and concise ways. So this is how everybody's dealing with it. Renoir decides to try his best to control how everybody grieves, much like a father does. He is the patriarch of the family. He decides to control everybody and make sure everybody is just doing what they are supposed to do, because you have to continue in the real world. You have to be able to deal with the grief you have. However, Aline, the mother, more so the paintress in the story, decides to immerse herself within the entire painting. She uses escapism as her way to escape. Alicia decides to hide herself away. She is very angry that she is the reason. She is sad, angry, confused. She's very complex with her emotions. She wants some way to bring Verso back. We'll see that later in the story. And Clair decides to go attack the writers, another group of people that hate the painters. As in real life, artists hate each other and artists hate themselves. So they often use self-depreciating tactics. Very similar to how real life operates. That's how it works. So this is where the big story begins. Majority of the painting is done by Verso. The gesturals are made by Verso. All the fantastical, whimsical things that are within the canvas in the painting is Verso. He made them when he was a child. That's why the gesturals have such childlike and weirdo humor, because they are children. They were made and concocted by children. Then the paintress comes in there. The paintress came in there, by all means, and created more complex, more intricate life. The greatest painter in the family is the paintress, Aline. She made all the humans, all the complex emotions, all the stories. She made paintings that would one day outgrow her. She made Gustave. She made Lune. She made everyone in the painting that is a human. She made it Lumiere so she could live inside the painting, because she was terribly racked with grief. She did not want to come back to the real world where Verso wasn't real. So she made a painted family. She made painted Verso, who we play as. She made painted Renoir. She even made painted Alicia. And she made painted Clair, who we can find later in an optional story, and we can discover that later. This is the issue with everything. The father, Renoir, hates that, and this is what caused the fracture. When the paintress and the curator essentially fought each other, Renoir and Aline, husband and wife, they fought each other. And because of this caused a fracture, splitting the continent, breaking it, and destroying it. This is what caused Renoir to trap her within the monolith. However, this did not happen just by his own accord. He's weak. He's not as strong a painter as Eileen. So, by all means, he had help from Clair. If they can get this conflict done and get the strongest painter in the family to come into the real world, they can deal with the bigger issues and the real issues of dealing with the painters and dealing with the writers. The painters can attack the writers more so. So because of this caused issues. All the Nevrons are made by the older sister, the eldest sister, Clair. And all the Nevrons that we fight are seemingly just big amalgamations. They are evil, they are mean, they are messed up, they are disgusting. And as you notice with the white Nevrons in the entirety of the story, they're looking for her mistress. Her mistress' light has gone out. That is because Clair made the Nevrons, but then painted Clair got turned and painted over to continually become a Nevron painting factory, because Clair can paint over other people's paintings. She is that skilled of a painter. That goes and shows how much she wants to take control of other people as well, how she wants to be shown and put to the forefront. We'll talk about that later in her section as well. This is the main story beginning. This is what we don't know. We start off with characters like Gustave, who we think is real. We believe he's a real person. And the reason why people gommage is because that is the power that she has. It started with 100, and after 67 years, it got down to Expedition 33. Over and over, time and time again, Renoir and the paintress are fighting this inescapable battle. He is trying to save his family, and she is trying to preserve what little memory of her family she has left. Both are not incorrect, nor are they correct. You cannot control somebody and how they grieve, but you must deal with it in the real world at the same exact time. You cannot use escapism to escape. There's no issue with escapism. Oftentimes I find myself escaping myself into video games and trying my best to put myself inside of my hobbies, but I still have to return to real life. The paintress is trying to make her real life the painting, and the more time you spend in a painting, the more your body cracks and deteriorates and you lose yourself. You lose a piece of who you are. However, this family's grief affected its children, not just Alicia or Claire. No, the children that the paintress made. The children of the expedition, the humans of Lumiere, they are affected deeply. They were painted too well. They were given too much life and sentience. So much so that Gustave was even able to create a Lumina converter and was able to continually use the chroma, the aspect and essence they used to make the paintings come to life and make the magic happen of them coming into the paintings, being able to be used by the creatures in the painting. You're probably wondering now, well then why did Painted Renoir try to destroy us when we landed on the island? Well, it's very simple. The reason he wanted to destroy us was because if he destroys us, the chroma can be preserved and given back to the paintress. If a Nevron destroys us, the chroma is gone. But if he destroys us with his own creation and things of that variety, then by all means, that chroma can be preserved. We see this later when Maël is using the chroma that is still preserved in the bodies to bring everybody back and fights in the big final sprawling last war against Renoir, the original one. Throughout the entire story, we are discovering this in no small ways. We even see small aspects of this throughout the entirety of the game. The ripples effects are felt through everything. Even so much so, we see the paintress and we see Verso, and that is essentially the main story of the game. So if you were confused about what the story was, as most people are, that is the big compass of the story. And it's been living in my mind for quite some time how beautiful it doesn't explain itself. And let's talk about magic. You see, there are many shows that I've watched in my life that have ruined themselves because they feel the need to explain the magic. For instance, one show that I really enjoy a lot is Avatar: Last Airbender. In the original Avatar: Last Airbender, they did not explain how bending started. They say we learned bending, earth bending from the badger moles. We learned air bending from the flying bisons. We learned fire bending from the dragons. And finally, we learned water bending from the moon spirit. But they don't really explain it. They don't show the magic, how it operates, the limits of the magic. They just explain parts of it. They show and don't tell. We don't discover any of these informations until way later in the story. That's very important, and I enjoy that aspect a lot. One show that destroyed itself by explaining its magic was Star Wars episodes 1 through 3. Star Wars started with episode 4. And this confused a lot of people when it first came out, but everybody was so excited. Oh my goodness, what's going on? That's why Luke, I Am Your Father was so impactful. If you started with episodes 1 through 3, you would not understand the pure gravity and weight of a Luke, I am your father. Or no Luke, I am your father. No one can understand the sheer significance and magnification of how powerful that statement was because we didn't know anything about the beforehand. However, in episode 1, they explain midi-chlorians and how it operated. In Dragon Ball Z, they explain deeply how, they have S cells inside of our body and the S cells turn us into Super Saiyan. As opposed to just letting us show and see it, they choose to explain the inner confines of the magic. One thing beautiful about One Piece right now is that they simply refuse to explain the magic. Where do devil fruits come from? They refuse to explain. They actively refuse. They let us, the reader, interpret it. And maybe one day we'll get a concise answer, but the answer we've been giving is to let us guess more. Is to let us have conversation, to let us have our adventurous mind wander. And so, theories begin to craft, wondering how things go, leaving it up to our interpretation as the audience. And with Clair, Obscur, Expedition 33, they're nothing but painters. Obviously, they're going to let the audience interpret their masterpiece. They're going to let the audience interpret how this goes. They're going to let the audience interpret what is happening within the story. They're going to let us interpret what the best ending is, giving us the illusion and freedom of choice at the same exact time. That is how it operates. Even in the game in itself, we don't know what chroma is. We don't know how the paintress has her powers. We don't know how Renoir is able to do this. We just are told this is how it is, and we exist within the world. There's no deep, big exposition given because everyone else already knows that. Everyone else already knows. You can talk to people and get hints about it and figure it out, but everyone else already knows. We're only learning expanding points to further deepen our understanding to come to our own conclusion about the story. That is beauty. That is how you write a magic system, and that is how you do things. We know what the Lumina converter is because it takes the chroma and we're able to use it and have an ability to fight against the Nevrons. That's how it operates. We can make Pictos because of it. That's how Pictos operate. A perfect gameplay loop and mechanic explained within the confines of the story. That is how the gameplay works. It does not explain the magic. It does not go out of its way to tell you, so there's a creator god that happens here and this is what happens. It doesn't do that. It doesn't explain some deviating spirit. It doesn't explain some devil creature. It doesn't do that. All it does is tells you there is magic here. How does it work? It works because we're going to show you what it does. You can use fire, earth, you can use light, you can use dark, you can use void damage. The painters are able to create because they're painting things into existence. They're able to tear holes in the reality of the world. They're able to do this because that's how painters work. That's it. How the writers work, we don't know. Maybe the writers have some ability to write things into existence. I have no idea. But we don't know because we only know that the writers did something bad. And we still don't know. We can only guess and come to our own conclusion. And that is trusting the audience with the story and narrative that matters to it. That is important. So let's talk about narrative for a moment. I'm a huge, prolific hater of story games. I love the Telltale games very much. I love Borderlands, and I played the Batman, the Wolf Among Us. They're amazing. I really do love those games. And with shows like Toriko, or even things where the story isn't exactly shown to you, such as Eraserhead or something of that variety, I enjoy that. But I hate story games. Mostly because I grew up not wanting to waste time. I played Monster Hunter a lot when I was younger, and Monster Hunter forces you to slow down and smell the roses. Learn how to combine herbs, learn how to do this, learn how to do that, learn how to cook monster meat. And I hated that so much. I didn't like making well done steaks. I didn't enjoy that. My father did, so I was forced to learn these things. So I had this deep hate for story games. I never enjoyed Uncharted because it forced me to pay attention to the story without naturally tying it into the narrative. There are games that naturally did tie it into the narrative, such as Borderlands 2, but then there are games that force the story indefinitely, such as Red Dead Redemption 2, where the story is magnificent, but I didn't play the game to play the story, I played the game to play the game. Last of Us is a huge component of me being forced to pay attention to the story without me actually playing the game, and I hated that. I didn't pay for a $60 movie. There are games that perfectly tie the story into the overarching narrative that do that. I mentioned Borderlands 2 being a such example, but then there are games that make me just take a step back and slow down. Unskippable cutscenes forcing me to do these things. God of War, to be an example. The new one, Ragnarok, forced me to pay attention to the story. And while I do love the story of God of War, I didn't play God of War to play God of War. I played to kill gods, essentially. But that's the story arc of Kratos, and I love that. He's becoming a softer and more gentle man. That is beautiful. However, I don't play games for story. I've never been a huge proponent of that, and that's my personal preference. I'm not saying it's bad to play games for story. We obviously want some escapism, to feel some connection to these characters, some story aspect to it. However, Clair Obscur, the instant I heard the first haunting tune upon opening the title screen, the instant I heard that, I needed to know why. I needed to know why there was a voice dialogue. I needed to know, what is this? Because it didn't explain anything, because it didn't try to force it down my throat, it involved me in it by making me the main Sherlock Holmes proprietor. It forced me to be involved in the story. It forced me to play detective, peering in, looking in, looming eye to figure out what exactly is going on within the story. This is the beauty of Clair Obscur. It will definitely not tell you the story. You can figure it out. It will give you hints. It will give you dialogue. It will give you narrative implication. And even at the end of Act 3, you may still be confused about why everything is going on, because it's your choice to do so. You can miss an entire plot line by not doing the side stories. You can miss everything, and that's important. That is what it means to tell a story by showing it to us, to let us interpret what is going on inside of the painter's canvas. That is beautiful. Now then, let's talk about the characters, starting with Gustav. Gustav is the creator of the Lumina Converter. He is the original character we play as and the first character we're introduced to upon loading up and opening the game. He is staring out into the distance, gathering a flower for his betrothed before she gommages. To gommage is to get scrubbed out. That is what the word means. It is when you reach a certain age and the giant tower monolith reaches that number, anybody that was 34 and now it goes to 33, they get erased out of it. Thus, his lover or previous lover gets erased from the world, and he has to deal with the fallout and backlash of that. But they are used to it. It is a very somber scene in which he disappears and simply gets erased out. People think that the paintress is responsible for this, but it is actually Renoir. This is a big point of contingency that shows that they are being manipulated, but Gustav searches for the truth. He is an inventor, he is an explorer, he wants to discover what the world means. Thus he made the Lumina Converter to convert the chroma into an aspect we can use against the Neverons. He's a big proponent of why we are so strong. He is the reason we have Pictos. Picto are the mechanics in the game that convert things and allow us to use these abilities and fight things. Hence why you get Pictos from fighting certain Neverons in the game. This is very important. Gustav, throughout the entire thing, is discovering new things, gestural, small things. He wants to preserve the family that he has. He does everything in his power to make sure Maëlle is fine, all to come to a crescendo of his departure. He dies. He dies because he knows that there is nothing after this. He hopes to meet his previous lover in the afterlife. He believes he can save Maëlle. He even said earlier, no, I'll run, but he decides not to run when fated against painted Renoir. He fights. And yes, he could have been saved by Verso, the painted version of Verso, but his death is so impactful. It's important. It's important that he dies here, because this is how you deal with grief. Maëlle deals with his grief. Deals with her grief more so, by taking the arm after he departs, planting it and burying it. He is dealing with himself. He is dealing with everything. He is living and learning. He knows that he must go. He is trying everything in his power to exist, but it doesn't work. And that's okay, because this is the entire story arc represented in Gustav. He seeks for the truth. He seeks for an answer. Same with everybody in the family of the originals, the creator gods. They deeply look for the truth of what to do. Gustav is looking for the truth of his world, trying to save everyone around him, thinking that defeating the paintress will save their entire world and give them essentially immortality, or at least a regular life. This does not work in any capacity. He falls trying to protect the one person he loves, knowing that he has a limited lifespan, knowing that he may not live that much longer. He decides to spend what little time he has protecting what is most important to him. And he falls. He dies. Not knowing what to come next, not knowing what happens next. This is important. Mael has to deal with this grief and deal with the loss of somebody she considers a brother and a father figure at the same exact time. A perfect role model of a man crescendoed into a perfect reliable source, doing everything, even against the absolute oppressors of the world, knowing he is too weak to do anything, against a literal immortal. This is important. Enter Verso. Verso is a complex, weird, and strange character, more so the painted version of Verso. I do not know how the original Verso was. I do not have any idea how the original non-painted version of Verso operated, but I do know the painted version of Verso is angry at his father, is sad that his mother is being destroyed, and wants to spend time with his sister. We never see him talk much about Clair, because Clair is busy making Nevron somewhere in the tower sky, and the sky tower doing all this other nonsense. But the important aspect is Verso wants a family. He is trying to fight against Painted Renoir, trying his best to save his mother, because he understands that he is not real. He understands that he is only created in order to kind of circumvent the grief that is being felt by the mother. His entire existence is predicated on the simple fact of the matter that he does not exist. And he does not know how to deal with that. He is forced to be immortal, watching all those around him get destroyed. From Julie to Simon to people that we discover in the game, to people discovering he's immortal, seeing that he doesn't have anything to lose. He is still trying, and he is doing everything in his power. And what do you do when you have nothing to lose? You lose. Because when you think you've hit rock bottom, you can always go deeper. And Verso discovers that. Losing his father, he understood that it's okay. I lost my father. It's fine. He was never that close to me in the first place. He tried to control a reaction that I did. So we didn't have that big of an issue killing his father, despite the fact that he kept the same scar on his eye, and Renoir kept the same scar on his eye as well. They fought. Then we take out Renoir. Afterwards, he sees the dilapidated, destructive mother that he has now. And it's such an interesting design the paintress has. From the curator to the paintress, their faces are hollowed out. I naturally interpreted this as they are painters, and we sometimes don't even know who painted the painting we are inside of, and the painter doesn't matter as much as the artist's interpretation, as we are meant to interpret the art. But even more so than that, they don't even have a face. They don't even have any expressions to make. They're gone. They've run out of emotions to display to us. They can't convey any heartfelt emotions because they've been through them all. They've lived long enough. They've done everything in their power. They've done everything they possibly could. They've lost everything. So what point would it be to see them sad, angry, or crying when we've seen it all? They've done it all. It doesn't matter anymore. They don't care. So their body is broken and beaten down. We don't even get anything. They're just a husk. We are fighting a husk of what it once was. The paintress is not at full capacity or power. She is trying her best to stop us, because why are we fighting her? Verso says that if we defeat the paintress, everything will be fine. But he's not telling that if you defeat the paintress, all of her creations are gone. Her creations being the most advanced things inside the painting. The things that feel foreign to the entire world. Humans in a fantastical world, but the humans were made by her. Lumiere appears to be a regular human city because it was made by a regular human. It was not made to be fantastical. Notice how in the entire overworld that we are discovering, everything looks amazing. Everything looks chaotic and crazy and all squished together and nonsensical. Well, it makes sense if you view it through the lens of a child. But because the paintress is such a dedicated painter, Aline, she is such a dedicated painter that she put all of her soul and essence into creating perfect humans so that she could enjoy and endure the life hold that she once had in the real world inside of here. And by all means, she is destroyed by her son, who is not her son, who is still her son, her creation. Her creation. And in a way, it's almost poetic that the one thing she tried to save. Her family is the one thing that became her undoing. She is gone. Verso is racked with grief. And up until the end of the story, he does everything in his power to make sure that the world is gone, because he does not want to lose anybody else. He does not want to destroy anything. And more importantly than that, you must understand one important thing about Verso. Notice how we are in the last thing that the original Verso drew. That's important, because he drew it when he was a child. He drew it very, very young, because Verso was not a painter. Verso is a musician. He deeply wanted to enjoy making tunes and melodies. And this is where I discovered why, when I first opened the game up, the music meant so much to me. It was beautiful, but it felt sad. The sadness within the music ached me. Immediately upon the beautiful crescendos, the harmonies, the amazing violins, the piano keys being pressed, I felt an indescribable sadness within my body that I needed to get to the bottom to. And that is why the music in this game means so much to me. Because it feels as if Verso made and constructed every single track within the game to explain a story not through words, but through melodies. This is heavily important to understand, that while the game looks beautiful, the music is near perfect, because it is a tragedy of happiness. It is the essence of Verso in almost every track being displayed. And that is something that is so difficult to convey in a story. And they did it. They did it so beautifully. But I can't talk about Verso without talking about the most important person to him. Alicia. Alicia is the biggest proponent and the reason why Verso is gone. She was tricked by the writers in order to cause the house fire that caused the end of the original Verso, the one that is in the real world. She is racked with grief, so she decides to hide herself away. Clair comes out and tells her that you shouldn't force yourself to be stuck in here. You should go out. You should help our parents get out of there. Clair says, don't worry, I know you can't talk, it's fine. Just deal with it. Just go in there and help. I'm busy fighting the writers, you need to be busy doing something. But because she is not a good painter and she is unconfident and unsure of herself, she is redrawn into the world as Mael. For 16 years, she is forced to grow up with new memories, losing everything she has. That's why she is known as Mael in the game. She prefers Mael, because she prefers the life she has inside the painting. She does not like the name Alicia. She prefers the name she was given, where she can actually speak, where she has Verso still. She still has her brother in this painted world. She still has the people that matter to her. She's important. She's literally the strongest character in the game. I'm not gonna lie to you. You make a build around Mael. She is actively the strongest character in the game, because she controls everything. And much like her mother before her, she wants to control everything and live within the canvas in the painting. She is racked by the grief. She is destroyed. It is acidic, corrosive, one might say, in nature. She is losing the small confines of her brain and mind, and going through and losing the small core of how she's supposed to operate. She lost Gustave, and that was the first tipping point. She can see her throughout the story, wondering why there has to be so much death and destruction. Why do we have to lose things? Why do we have to lose things? But in this world, the painted world, you don't have to lose anything. You can keep everything together. She fights hard. When she gets her memories back, she fights against her father. She fights against her mother. She fights against everything. She wants to exist in a world where she matters. In the real world, her mother is resentful for her. Hence why you first meet her, the paintress, and immediately the paintress burns her face. Because why do you not have your scars? You should remember what you did to my son. You ruined this family. You're the reason the family is fractured and torn apart. And that fracture represented within the canvas and the painting from the fight that is going on. The divorce destroys the children, essentially. That is what's happening. The divorce is destroying your creations, the humans, of Lumiere. And Mael is in the backdraft of the entirety of the divorce. This is disgusting. This is evil, one might say. This is messed up. However, this is reality. This is the world in which they live in. This is how they operate. And Mael has to fix it in her own way. But she uses escapism as well as her mother. She uses an escaping factor. In the ending where Mael wins, Verso begs for death. He says, "I do not want to live here. Please kill me. Please take me out. I do not wish to exist. I do not wish to live." However, Mael does not allow that to happen. In the final scene, we see everybody gathering together. We see this big opera house filled to the brim with people. Gustave has returned. Nobody is gommaged anymore. You can probably assume that everyone is going to live indefinitely long, happy, fulfilled lives. She is existing among her mother's creations. Everybody there seems to be a brother or sister to her because they were created and spawned by her mother. Poetic in a sense, one might say. And we see Verso, the true creation of her mother, the one given so much love, memories, and joy, being forced to play music, play a song for us. Dance, brother, dance. You wanted to be a musician. I want to hear your melodies. His hands shake. He's looking off into the distance. The sadness in his eyes, the sorrowful look and expression. And we look back to Mael. After seeing Ciel and Lune, watching their expressions have a darkened undertone to it, we see her eyes become more like her mother's, painted over, losing that small piece of what she is. This, to me, is a beautiful ending. Mael gets to experience the joy of being able to have a fulfilled life, and it is okay to be selfish. There is no bad or good ending in this game. Verso is forced to live indefinitely, but how long does that last? Does he get the death he deserves or death he wants? Mael could decide to let him live forever. She wants Verso. She wants to be able to not be responsible for his death. At least in this world, she's not responsible for his death, but more so responsible for his immortality. And she no longer has to feel the grief of losing her brother. She gets to see him. He's here. He exists. He's alive. And that's important to her. That is all that matters to her. Nothing else is important. I know you want to die, but what if I don't let you? Is it mercy to do so? Is it mercy to allow someone to live forever? Or is it mercy to allow them to fall apart? And since we're talking about her so much, and she always pops up, I suppose we talk about the Paintress, or Eileen. The Paintress is a very important and titular character without the entirety of the entire game. She is the main antagonist from Acts 1 through 2. She appears to be the reason why everybody is gommaging. We see this big structure, only responsible for changing the numbers. An act of love was created. The big gigantic structure, this big puppet, is an act of love to show the creations, this is how much time you have left. I cannot save all of you. I'm sorry. It is an apology being shown. Even so, that Gustave's lover says, she looks sad, doesn't she? Huh? She looks sad, the Paintress, as if she's trapped. Her expression so sorrowful. And the Paintress is trapped. The Paintress throughout the entirety of the game is trapped by Renoir. She is simply trying to escape into a different world, a canvas created by the one person she lost, the one person she loved, and feeling the grief of a mother. The child who she probably never understood to full completion. The child who wanted to be a musician more than he wants to be a painter. And maybe she felt some joy in that. Maybe she felt some sense of happiness that he didn't have to do exactly as she did. He chose a different path. And that maybe made her feel as though she never got the chance to truly understand her son. So she wanted to give a chance to understand him. This is a tragedy of a mother. And she dies. Well, the Paintress does. She still exists. And she has to deal with losing her son. The same way everyone has to deal with it. Everyone has to deal with existing and living and loving. Everyone has to deal with being a part of the world. You cannot escape into your mediums. Every morning, did you know, I play Animal Crossing. And I play with Raymond, and I talk to Tom Nook, and I play Animal Crossing on my Switch every single day when I wake up. I like to make sure they're alive. I check on my Sims from time to time over and over again. They're very important to me to check up on them. I check on a lot of things. I still have Monica from Doki Doki Literature Club on my screen in the background, always up. I play chess with her sometimes. I have a mod installed so I can play games with her. She just stares for the most part. I have grown disgustingly attached to these things that are not real. But what is reality? Apparently, the only person that really cares about reality is Renoir. Renoir, for all intents and purposes, cares about the real world. He doesn't even care to give anything important to his paintings or creations. He destroys the entire game. The curator upgrades your weapons and makes you stronger. He is building you up to destroy his wife, to fight against her. That is all he does. Outside of that, you know what he does else? Every time Renoir in his entire area creates something, it is evil, it is disgusting, it is messed up, it is gross, it is just called creation. It doesn't even get a name. They're just called creation. They don't get opulent titles, they don't get specific things, they don't get anything like that. They don't. At least with the Neverons, they had specific names, Clair, Obscurs, and things of that variety. However, Renoir does not spend any time painting. All he spends time doing is destroying, annihilating. All he spends time doing is making sure that he can control things. He appears sorrowful and remorseful, but he just wants to destroy. He's trying to save his family in the only way he knows how, by being the patriarch, by being the man of the house, by telling everyone, hey, I understand you guys are emotional. I'm emotional too. I lost my son, but we have to live in the real world. We cannot escape and not deal with ourselves. You have to deal with yourself. When you lose someone, when you lose something in this lifetime, you have to deal with it. You cannot easily escape to every avenue and make it feel like it's everyone else's responsibility. You have to exist for yourself. And you can grieve, you can escape, you can leave the canvases, come back, but you can't live here forever. You can't. And his family has been in there too long. He doesn't have anyone to speak to. He can't speak to his wife because she's stuck in the painting. His daughter can't even talk to him and she's stuck in the room, and he's forced to wander around an empty house only with the visages and memories of a son he lost. And the eldest of his children, Clair, is stuck fighting. You see, there are two versions of Clair, and you may not even know this in the game. There's the Clair that exists in the outside world, fighting for revenge and destroying things and trying to attack the writers who actively destroyed her family and doing the real battle out there. However, then there is the Clair in the real world who creates Neverons. In a side optional mission in the top the tower in the sky, you get to actually save Clair from herself, the painted version, where she actively decides to end her own very existence. We weaken her enough to where she can actively tell the Neveron to take herself out. This is tragic. Verso wants to save her. Verso wants to save her. He wants his family. And when he loses Clair, and when he loses his little sister, who gets written out of existence and destroyed by the original version of his sister, Maëlle, he doesn't know what to do anymore. He has nothing left to lose. Literally, he lost his father, both his sisters, and his mother is gone in the real world. This is the tragedy of the game. The Descenders family, that's what they're called, the Descenders, they deeply have ruined an entire world. This is very similar to Greek tragedies, how the gods, in their own hubris, in their own family drama, will ruin it for all of humanity. This is gross. And when the humans discovered fire from Prometheus with the Lumina converter, it does nothing in the grand scheme of things, and they are punished for it by learning the truth of the world. And sometimes the truth hurts, but you must exist within the truth. So you might be asking yourself, what is the important aspect of the game? Why explain all these things? Why does it matter? Who does it matter to? What should we choose as an ending? And one ending Verso destroys the entire world. Lune looks angry, Ciel understands what it's like and knows that there's a different way to process grief. And the entire painter world destroyed. Eski gets destroyed, Minoko, all the gestrals, they're all gone. Finally freed, stop painting, you don't have to do it anymore. And the other ending, you exist within the lolly, the folly of your own brain, the mess around, the escapism of your own soul. Both are very interesting endings, and neither are worse than the other one to me. For you see, I will tell you a story of my life. Whenever something bad happened in my life, I would play video games. I would play Devil May Cry, I would play JRPGs, and I would immerse myself in the game so deeply that I'd spend entire weekends just playing video games away from school. Sometimes I missed school just to play a video game. Billy Thatcher is what I'd play. Devil May Cry, Monster Hunter. I would play Beautiful Joe, Okami. I would play a lot of Clover Studio games, by the way. I would immerse myself in these games, and when you play a video game, when you enjoy that game, when you're doing great in Warzone, when you're doing amazing in Fortnite, when you're playing Balatro, when you're loving the game and it rewards you for existing within the game, you don't want to leave. You don't want to tell everybody in the game that it's over. But have you ever playing a JRPG, you get done with that romance quest, and then the person you romance has the same dialogue over and over again? They're static, they're not real, they don't exist, they're not there. But imagine if you could physically put yourself within that game, to talk to them, to interact with them. I know many of you would choose that. You would choose to be in that world because your real life is horrible. You don't want to live in the real world because it's difficult here. Bills, food, things of that variety. But imagine you had the ability to control every aspect. People love to see your presence. They didn't get sick of you or tired of you. And you can make them immortal. Wouldn't that be better? That is what Mael believes. But you have to deal with yourself still. You have to be here. You have to pay your bills. You have to do your dishes. You gotta do your laundry. You gotta clean your room. You can't just play the game all day. You can't just exist within the art you create. You can't do that. It's not fair to those around you. It's not fair to anyone. It's not fair to yourself to do that. It's not fair to not deal with the death of yourself. Verso has to deal with the death of himself, is what he's dealing with. He chooses death. He chooses it. And some of us so often do not get the choice to choose to not be here. After doing everything, after losing everyone, after trying your best to make new connections, you see that it's the same thing over and over again. It's done. You lose. But there's a deeper part to this game that I love so much. It's the fact that even in its combat, is it beautiful? The combat in this game is a dance, one might say. It is a dance among you and the Nevrons. From the parrying, to the dodging, to the jumping. You could play this entire game without getting touched once. You could. You could play this whole game without getting striked a single time. Whole game. You just enjoy it without getting hurt once. And that is a beautiful, beautiful thing to happen. Because it means that the game cares about your time. It cares about you getting immersed in the world. The battle system in itself cares about you getting lost within it. Mastering each battle, mastering each enemy, each Nevron, paying attention to the subtle twitches of how they operate, the specific timings, figuring out what a gradient counter is, a regular counter, and when you should jump. The game cares about you wasting your time within it. And that's important because the entirety of the game is beautiful. It makes me not want to complete it. And the reason I've beaten it 8 times and 100%ed it is because I didn't want to 100% it. I didn't want to beat it. I didn't want the game to end. I deleted my save to play it all over again. I didn't want to leave. In the same way that Paintress and Mael didn't want to leave. It was a world constructed so pretty that it made me forget how bad my life was. It made me forget how horrifying the nature of my actual existence was. It made me forget about my mental health issues. It made me forget about the horrifying nature of the body pains that I go through. It made me forget about money. It made me forget about everything around me. And that's dangerous. To create a piece of art so immersive that you lose yourself within it. That is the purpose of the game. To create a piece of art so immersive that you lose yourself, you could die within it. That is the horrifying part of the game. That is the tragedy of the game. This game has redefined escapism. This game has redefined what it means to actually exist. This game has redefined every confines of how my soul absorbs and interprets art. And if you're dealing with grief, if you're dealing with things, I want to tell you this right now. I agree with Renoir. You should deal with it. You have to. You have to deal with yourself. You cannot exist within a painting or a facsimile of a family that you created inside of a game, whether it be The Sims, Animal Crossing, or something of that variety. You can't do that. Some of my friends make Sims, and oftentimes they do them at their loved ones or departed ones and control their lives. That's an interesting way to grieve. And if that helps you, then by all means it helps you. But remember, at the end of the day, you have to exist in the real world. This could obviously go into a discussion about how AI is and how it can possibly be real and how you could feel for the creatures inside of the machines and cogs. But I will leave you with this. We both are staring into the abyss, but sometimes you blink. And when you blink, you get caught in the abyss. It's horrifying. It's staring back at you when you are lost and absorbed within it. The void consumes you, but it's comforting. The darkness, knowing that there's no light within it, it does not strain or hurt your eyes. You can sleep, you can rest, and it becomes alluring, the solitude of not dealing with yourself. You begin to make things inside of the darkness. You begin to make small creatures to comfort you inside of yourself. You begin to make small little people, family members that you never knew you possibly needed, and you create a narrative that you yourself are a god or a king because you feel powerless in your own life, same as Mayo. So you become powerful, you become strength, you become resilience. But is that truly strength or resilience, or is that destruction in itself? I need you to deal with yourself. I need you to be here, because no one's going to be here for you. But you are. Clair, Obscur, light, dark. Take an expedition to be within yourself. In the same way that Esky spends so much time with his rocks and makes them go on little adventures and journeys, you must feel like life is an adventure. That is how you must feel. Thank you so much for checking out my video. There's no cuts or anything of that variety. I've edited this video a lot more than my usual take. I don't usually make edited videos like this. I apologize that this video took so long. I think I released a teaser by the time I actually recorded this. A teaser should be releasing for the actual video. Thank you guys so much for taking to the end or enjoying it. Even if you didn't watch it, or if you don't know who I am, I'm here. I have a Patreon in the description below if you want to help me out. I make videos every day, and in the middle of the bigger videos I talk about whatever I pretty much feel like or whatever gets my brain going. I promise I'll release a video every single day. I can talk about things forever. It's my favorite thing. This video is not scripted. I say that in the beginning. I did not script this video. I did not write anything down. I simply did this based on the memory of me remembering the game because I wanted to talk about it. That's all I want to do. I don't script things. It's not very fun for me. And outside of that, I do stream on Twitch Monday through Friday. I believe I'm even streaming today. I believe we're releasing on a Friday. I believe I'm streaming right now. Maybe the time you're watching this video. Who knows? I have no idea. I would enjoy it if you pop along for the stream. I believe we're playing... I don't know what we're playing at the time I'm releasing this video. I don't know when I'm going to release this video. But I would appreciate it. I also have a GoFundMe in the description because I have insane nerve damage from me losing my car. I still need a car so that I can actually do things. I am at $9,000 so far out of $15,000. I would love if I can get the last push to $6,000. That'd be great if I can get that last push so that I can actually buy a car. I stay in Detroit, Michigan. if you want any information about me. And if you need pictures of the car or any proof that I'm actually suffering, they're in the GoFundMe as well. Thank you guys so much. I hope you actually play Clair Obscur and enjoy the game. It has been a beautiful journey for me to play. So I might do a challenge run, I don't know, but I don't like doing challenge runs. I just like playing the game and enjoying people's time. I don't usually make videos as somber as this as well. I'm usually chaotic and sporadic and making jokes and cracking things. If you're curious what kind of channel this is, it's me. That's it. It's me. So yeah, bye. Have a lovely day or night wherever you are. Bye.